knows even why some houses are called haunted.
What would you call this place?
Well, diseased, sick, crazy. Such houses are described in the Bible as lepers. Before that, a homeless race for the underworld. A house of Hades.
Hi everybody, this is Irene Allen Block from the Paranormal UK radio show, the flagship show, the Paranormal UK radio network. And I am so pleased to say today that I have got the man himself, the marvelous, the fantastic Mark back with us.
Hello.
Hello, where you been?
Oh, good Lord. It's been it's been a busy last several months, let me tell you.
Yeah, you have been busy, haven't you? Plenty of work.
All
yes?
Work and no play. You know how that goes.
But it's finished now. It's over. It's, coming down sort of thing. The work is not as much as it was. No,
and I missed the show. I mean, I didn't really want to give it up and put it on side.
You didn't give it up.
No, I just had to put it on hold. I just want to put a big shout out to Christian Delaney and Andy Mercer and people who've been stepping in and helping out on the show while I've been away. I just want to thank you guys a lot. You guys rock, and I'm really happy to be back because I need some paranormal in my life. I haven't had much going on in the last few months.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, the people that helped out was Christian Delaney, Chris Evers, Andy Mercer, and Stephen Sacclataris.
Well, Stephen and Chris Evers, I'm sorry I missed you guys, but thank you as well. You guys did a great job.
Yeah, they've been keeping everything together. They've been absolutely fantastic, Mark.
Excellent.
They've helped out on all the other shows, and they've really been keeping things going. And it is Stephen Sacclataris, by the way. I can never pronounce his surname. So sorry, Stephen, but you are an absolute angel for helping out as well. Right, Mark. Where do we go from here? Now, listen, people, before we go any further, I want to say if you hear any demonic noises, rude noises, anything like that, it's not me. It could be Mark, but it's not me. No, it's definitely neither of us. It is Gertie. She's back in the room.
Gertie, the paranormal pup.
That's right. And, Gertie the diva, she's sleeping over there on the sofa at the moment. And you know what bulldogs are like. They do make the strangest of noises. Not only when they're awake, but when they're asleep as well. More so when they're asleep. That's
true. My the dog we've been that's been with me for the last year. He's a Lab Rottweiler mix, and he's 14 years old. And let me say, the gas comes flowing.
And don't they snore?
Oh my God! Yes.
Yeah. So the gas comes flowing.
Yes.
Certainly does that with Gertie as well. I just blame it on the other dogs. Still.
So here we are. We're back. I'm back. We got the paranormal.
Yeah, and I'm totally lost.
Oh, no problem. We will get this show back on the road. I mean, what about, we could talk about a couple of current events before we bring on our guest. You know, everything from...
whatever it is, do not talk about Bobo. Boris
Johnson.
No.
Yeah,
that's the only Johnson we don't want in the country at the moment, I'm afraid. Oh, he's stirring things up over here.
Really?
He's got all the farmers going now.
Well, so. I haven't heard much of what he said. He just looks like a fatter Trump clone with that hair.
He's got more hair than Trump, hasn't he?
He doesn't.
Trump has got comb over.
Yeah, Trump has his infamous comb over. So.
So does that, when the wind blows, does that lift up in the air?
It sometimes, yeah. I think they had a picture of him once where it did.
Did it? Oh gosh, can you imagine it? No, well, at least Boris's hair is scruffy, but It's his, and there's no comb over or anything. He's got plenty at the front. He doesn't need a comb over. He's got plenty at the back as well.
Oh, good.
But the point is, he has been stirring up a little bit of trouble over here because he's telling everybody, that we are going, more than likely, it's going to come to it that we will leave without a deal.
Just so that we can leave. Or you can
Just
leave.
so we can leave, yeah. Oh, he says leave. Here, the way it is, Mark, if they don't want to take our deal, bugger them, we're still leaving. That's it.
Yep.
But the point is, to leave without a deal will cost a lot of people their jobs. It'll bring hardship down on the country, I should imagine. I don't even want to think about it at the moment. God knows why he got in. I just can't believe it. Never mind.
Well, everyone has political opinions, and God knows we have our fair share over here. The insanity never ends. Let's put it that way.
I do like him because I think he's funny. He's a character. But there's a place for him, and it's not as Prime Minister, I don't think.
No. Well, so many people feel that way about Trump over here, and, he's a mixed bag. I personally don't have a problem with him, but I know a lot of people who do. So
yeah,
you have to watch what you say anymore because people get all offended. And
oh yes, and I expect we'll get a few complaints about what we've said, especially what I've said. Well, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm an old woman. I can say what the hell I want.
Everyone's entitled to my opinion.
Yes. Oh, we started this one off right to wrong. Well, anyway, let's change the subject.
Let's change the subject. Why don't we go ahead and bring in our guest so we can talk about some paranormal? How about that?
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? That's about the only thing we can talk about safely.
Well, we want to welcome our guest. Patrick Henry Orozco is joining us tonight. Patrick is the solo ghost hunter, and he has his website, and he also has his new book, Timelines, Solo Overnight Explorations of Some of America's Most Haunted Locations. So, Patrick, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Irene.
Oh, you're welcome, Patrick. It's nice to have you on, actually.
It's good to be on.
And to be on the first show when Mark's back, well, that is definitely some sort of dishonor. Oh dear, never mind. We usually get ourselves into a lot of trouble, Patrick. I'm sorry about this, but it's at that stage in life for the both of us where we just don't care.
I don't either.
That's good. That's the best way to be.
Yes.
We usually spend half the show taking the piss out of each other, so we haven't been able to do that in quite a few months.
Looking forward.
Oh, I don't know so much. I've still been taking the piss out of him. The trouble is he hasn't been on the other end of it. So he doesn't know about it.
Oh, yes. My ears were burning, though.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, Patrick, let's get to the meat of this here. Now, you are a solo ghost hunter. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. This will be the standard radio questions, and we'll get this out of the way, and then we'll get into our good, lively discussions. But tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and how long you've been ghost hunting. What got you into it?
Well, I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and I got into, I had a defining moment, a defining paranormal moment when I was 5 years old. So I've been interested in this since for quite some time. And I got into it, I imagine, the way a lot of people currently have gotten into it, by watching it on television. I had no idea these shows existed. And this was maybe about 2006, 2005, and I came across a show called Ghost Hunters, and it seemed interesting. I had no idea people did this.
Well, see, but what's funny is because I've been ghost hunting for about 18 years now, and I was doing it before Ghost Hunters came out. Of course, like most of us in the paranormal, we all tuned in every week to see Jason and Grant and all the different great locations that they would go to.
You did, I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't, but you know what? Like most of the ghost shows, and I've been on a couple myself. So I have a lot of mixed feelings about them, and even Ghost Hunters, I had a lot of feelings about. But you know what? If it did do something good, it brought the paranormal into the mainstream. Now, it's hard to turn on the television without coming across a paranormal show.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just Ghost Hunters. When we were kids, everybody that I was associated with, my friends, we all knew about that phenomenon. The phenomenon of going to, scary haunted locations and taking a tape recorder and letting it roll and making recordings and then hopefully finding some kind of voice, an EVP or something like that. We were doing that way back in the 70s. Way before any of this was on television, and we were just doing it just for fun. We never did it. I had no idea that it would turn into the phenomenon that it has turned into, especially here in the States. With all of these ghost hunting shows, it just seems that everybody now has a ghost hunting show on television.
Yes, and
if they haven't got one, they want one.
They want one,
Yeah.
and a lot of people get into the paranormal because they want to be on TV. And not realizing, and you're talking to somebody with a film, television background here.
Being on TV is crap.
Yes, it is crap. Poor wages. You don't make any money. The production companies, most of them, treat you like garbage. And it doesn't matter how honest you are in the field and recording it. Once that footage gets to the editors, they can do whatever they want with it, and they do. I mean, I've people remember I've mentioned several times that I did an episode of Paranormal State. And in their third season, we did the premiere episode, and the crap that production company pulled, and they screwed over our clients. They faked some evidence. They misrepresented stuff. It was just an overall horrible thing. Plus, when the client who's really nervous and doesn't want any notoriety, she wants to keep everything on the low key. They show up with these big trucks and put up lights in the neighborhood, and the whole frickin' town knew we were there.
Yeah, I was shocked and surprised to realize how big a production crew some of these shows take with them. They take 2 to 3 big production trucks. They take over neighborhoods. I had no idea. I kind of when I first started to see these shows, I kind of bought into that idea. I was a little naive about it. I had no idea what was really going on, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to go out on my own, to go and see what's going on. Why is this such an interest? Why is this becoming so popular, and it's becoming such a phenomenon? And that's why I went out on my own.
Yeah. But you know something, they'd done a show here, Patrick, at this house once, and they had such big lights out in the back garden. It stopped the cows from giving milk over at the farm. I'm not kidding you. I'm lucky I didn't have a UFO landing.
Signaling the Pleiades to, hey, we're here.
Yeah. And guess, Mark, the contract, they have to give you £1, right? They have to give you £1 to seal the contract. Nobody got the £1. Nobody.
Cheap bastards.
Not one coin came out of that producer's pocket.
Wow.
Yep.
I did get a bunch of flowers and a bottle of champagne and everything at the end, only because I insisted on them. So a little man came to the door a few days later and delivered them from one of the most prestigious shops in London, which was quite good. Oh, right. So I think you're very brave.
Well,
I really do.
And we got to warn you, Patrick, that we do this a lot. We go off on tangents, so it's as much as a three-ring circus discussion as it is an interview. So, you just sit back and enjoy the ride.
I will.
Yeah, but I do think you're very brave, Patrick, to be able to go to do these places on your own, because you never know what dangers are there. You can fall head over, I nearly said something else, but head over heels down a staircase or something like that, or fall in a hole if the floor's missing. You never know, do you? And you're in these places on your own in the dark.
Yes.
Now, what makes you go out on your own? Why do you not have other people going with you?
Mark, he likes it.
I love it. Well, but there's a couple of reasons why I think solo is advantageous. I think that, and we were talking about this, about these big production companies, big production crews, camera people, sound people. There's always so many people in this location that I think it's that anytime you go in with a big team or a bunch of people, I think it's disruptive.
Yeah, it corrupts the evidence as well, doesn't it?
You certainly cut down on contamination by going in by yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's disruptive for the space. I think that if it's one single person in there, I think if there's any entity there, if there's anything paranormal happening, I think it's more likely to happen. And the other reason I really enjoy going solo is because I think I'm less of a threat. And I know this may sound odd, but I don't mind physical contact, even if it becomes a little too physical, even if I get hit or slapped. And I have had some significant physical contact experiences. And I know it bothers a lot of people who do this, but it's never bothered me. And that's really the primary reason. And I always ask for if they can't communicate with me by speaking to me, or then if they can communicate by touching me or hitting me, that's fine. It really doesn't bother me. And that's not to say that I'm brave or anything like that. It's just that I do go in with that expectation that things could get intense.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, if you're in that frame of mind, it gives you that strength anyway.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah. And like I said, that doesn't mean I don't get startled. It does happen. And because sometimes you're really not really ever completely ready for it. When it does happen, it happens at the strangest times. It's always unexpected. But as you said, I am there with that frame of mind, expecting it to happen.
Yeah.
Well, so you've been investigating now for about how many years? About 6 years?
Since 2012.
Since 2012. Okay. So with that, what types of locations have you gone to?
Any place that is relatively easy to secure, places that are easy to book, because while there's a lot of places that are allegedly haunted, and I always have friends telling me, "Oh, you should go here, you should go there," and I say, "Well, it's not quite that easy." A lot of these places that they want me to go to are working restaurants, bars, museums, and they really don't want someone alone poking around in this working business. So I just find locations that offer that type of service, or that open themselves up for paranormal groups or paranormal investigations, that sort of thing. So anything that I become aware of, either through on the internet, on TV, friends, I'll go to those places. And I like to go to places where the big names in the television scene have been to, because oftentimes they make it seem to be much more than it really is. And I like to try to debunk whatever it is they claim is happening in those places.
You know, when you were saying that about restaurants just now, I had a vision in my head of a restaurant full of people all sitting there eating, and you going around with your little recorder saying, "Can you breathe into this?" It just came into my head, and I thought, "Oh, you silly cow, it's nothing like that." But, oh, dear. So a lot of these places, though, are very expensive. You've got to pay to get into them to do these investigations, haven't you? I know over here nearly everybody's getting into it.
Oh, yeah. There's plenty of things. Yeah.
They're all looking at the big bucks now.
Well, a lot of them, that's how a lot of them can stay open because they need that cash influx in order to maintain the buildings and keep it from going belly up. I mean, I can understand it. Sometimes I think some of these places charge too much or they get a little greedy, but at the other times, when you're dealing with a dilapidated building and nothing else is happening, you need to keep the upkeep, keep it safe, especially for people coming through. I mean,
still keep it dilapidated.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of cases, like I've been to Rolling Hills Asylum up in upstate New York, and that place is, not super dilapidated, but it's still pretty empty and run down. And they need money. They had to put a new roof on it at one point. So, I understand it.
Yeah. For instance, like Fort Mifflin here in Pennsylvania, in Philly, in Philadelphia.
Been there.
Yeah, they depend a lot on private funding to keep the place running. So I didn't mind. It was steep. It was expensive, but it was a great location. And the money they did get from me went to a good cause. I believe in it. I'm glad it did.
Mifflin, especially these historical sites, they need the tourists. They need people to come. Now, I know a lot of locations that are very haunted that won't let anybody in, and they won't allow groups to come in. I mean, this one location here in New Jersey that we investigated, the Red Mill Museum. We were the first group to come in and investigate it the year after Ghost Hunters did an episode there, and we were the only other group besides Ghost Hunters the TAPS team to ever do an investigation. And after us, we kind of helped put them on the map, and more people started coming in, and they started counting on that revenue because it's a historical site, a nonprofit. They need donations. They need some way to make revenue to keep things going. But then, after a few years, they had a change in leadership on the board of directors, and you get people in there who don't want to be associated with the paranormal, thinking, well, that's taking away from our history. We're not a history, we're all about the history. We don't want to deal with ghosts. And I know several other locations that are that way, run by the State Park Service, where they know it's haunted. They'll talk to you off the side and tell you how haunted it is, but when it comes down to it, nope, we're not haunted. You can't investigate.
Yeah. For instance, here in San Antonio, I'd love to be the first one to get into the Alamo. But I think it's the Mothers of the Republic or the Daughters of the Republic that run the Alamo are extremely conservative, so they would never allow such a thing. But I would love to get in there because allegedly it's very active and very haunted.
Now, the Alamo would be an interesting location. But again, it gets back to what these places that are willing to allow people to come in. I mean, other locations, they embrace it because they know the notoriety will bring fresh business, fresh faces, people coming in, and keep money coming in to maintain these locations.
Yeah, and some of these places, for instance, like West Virginia State Penitentiary, they will begin booking the very first week of January, and you've got to get in there as fast as possible because they will book that location solid throughout the summer. Mm-hmm. And I was surprised at how quickly dates were getting booked up when I was trying to secure the location. So, yeah, but again, that's a huge structure that they depend on that money to run the place. And again, I really don't mind as long as you said, some of these places are charging a little too much. I could name names, but I won't do that.
Oh, I don't mind naming names. Eastern State Penitentiary, what they charge and what they allow you access to is a crime.
Do they allow you all night, or do they give you a set amount of hours and that's it?
Depends on the location. I know Eastern State only gives you a couple of hours, a few hours, and they limit you to certain locations.
And they kick you out.
And then they kick you out.
Oh,
yeah.
Christ.
Yep.
Yeah, West Virginia Penitentiary, they only gave me 6 hours, and it was $1,200. So
yep.
How much?
$1,200. So that's $200 an hour for
$1,200. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm beginning to think doing? I think I'll do this house. I think I'll start renting this house out. It's highly haunted, everybody. Anybody that wants to come to my house, £500 per night. That's all I'm charging, half price. You can come and do an investigation at Glenantine.
Well, not only is it extremely haunted, but you also have the UFO highway behind the house, and you have the local Bigfoot, the Trey Moore, in the nearby hills. So
that's right. I can put up tents for anybody. I got plenty of room in the garden.
Lots of paranormal around Irene's house there in Wales.
Yeah.
I'm in.
You can come and do it, Patrick, for nothing. Okay, just come over, have a free holiday.
Okay.
We're building a swimming pool. I got the grandkids building it. Anyway, so these places are very expensive then. Have you ever thought, Patrick, of going to a place during the day with the tourists, taking your camera, taking your voice recorder hidden in your top pocket, and just walking around?
I did sort of do that. The very first place that I went to in 2012 was Waverly Hills Sanatorium. But I went there with a group, and there were, every night was different. I was there 2 nights, and I think maybe the first night they had about 40 people. That was a Friday night. Then the following night, Saturday night, there was quite a few more.
So there was a lot of noise. You should have locked them all in a room and just got on with it.
I tried to. I did. Any chance I got to separate myself from the group, I would do that. Yes, but yes, exactly. They were very noisy. They were very nervous. There was a lot of talking. There was a lot of flash photography. They wouldn't stop using their flashlights, and that's really the primary reason why I decided, nope, I have to do this alone.
Yeah, no, they do your head in, don't they? I was telling Patrick earlier on about a place that I done in Neath, here in Wales, with a friend of mine, Karen. How I put her down in the cellar, shut her in the cellar, left her down there in the dark. Sorry, Karen. And went upstairs and was watching on the screen as this grey, she's sitting down there going, is anybody there? Is anybody there? I think someone's here. She's doing all that. And there's this grey mist comes creeping across the ceiling. I'm not kidding you, Mark. It was tremendous, this mist. And I'm sitting there going, there's someone there. And I left her down there for ages. It was lovely. Anyway. She's going to belt me if she listens to this show now. Oh, dear. But so walking around these asylums, they're obviously very, very big places.
Yeah, and you touched on this. The only fear for me is some of these places are in disrepair. There's one place here in Texas that is really, really, really very dangerous place because the third floor is in very bad shape. So you really have to be careful, and that's really
especially in the dark.
Yeah, and that's the only fear for me is that it happened to me on the battleship. I was on the USS North Carolina, and for a second there I almost fell down. I thought I was going to fall down these very steep stairs, and that really, more than anything else, was what really frightened me. Because if you fall down in a battleship, it's not going to be a good ending.
No, it's going to hurt. Definitely going to hurt your bum.
Lots of metal and sharp edges.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely hurt your bum. But also, you can imagine it. Walking along and you fall down a hole and you might not get found for days, Patrick.
Yes.
Have you got some sort of system going that if you don't turn up within a certain amount of hours, someone will come out and look for you?
Most of the places that I've been to, there is either a caretaker or a site manager. And in fact, the caretaker on the battleship said, well, if you fall down a flight of stairs and you break your neck, we'll find you eventually in the morning.
Yeah. I was going to say, have you found that some of these, well, I don't know what the American caretakers and site managers are like, but the ones in this country, they're pretty spooky in themselves. They're enough to scare you.
They're all different here. I mean, most of them are very nice. I haven't had a negative experience, no.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you done Rolling Hills, didn't you? Well, you went to Rolling Hills.
Yep.
Well,
I was there twice.
Yeah.
A really awesome location. It is one of my favorite locations, and both times we went, we did have a lot of experiences and captured a lot of evidence. Everything, and again, the drawback, and this is where I appreciate what you do, Patrick, is because it was a big location and so expensive, we brought our whole team. We had about 10 of us there. 10 people, even it's a big location, you can spread people out, but you know what? There's still some contamination. You can hear somebody talking down a hallway. You think you see shadows moving and it's somebody else moving down the hallway. So there's so much you have to dismiss and make sure you debunk before. Yeah. But, there were times also when the first time we were there, we were taking the tour that they had us take to show us where everything is. And while on the tour, we hear a scream down a hallway. I hear children playing down another hallway when I went to go get a camera. So, a lot of crazy things were happening.
These places are really large, though, aren't they? Don't you get lost?
Well, I mean, yeah.
I'd have a piece of string with me and I'd be walking around with that so that I can follow it back.
If you don't know the location, and again, the way especially a location like Rolling Hills is laid out, it's very easy to get lost, especially once you go down like into the basement towards the morgue and then trying to find your way back up to the office. It's like, it's a comedy of errors. You might as well be playing the Benny Hill theme in behind it while you're trying to find it.
Have you done any morgues, Patrick?
No, but speaking of getting lost, I did get hopelessly lost on the battleship on the USS North Carolina, and I kept retracing my steps, and on the battleship, as in a lot of places, if there's a locked door, that means that's off limits, or if a door is closed, usually it was locked. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting into some of the crew quarters, and I retraced my steps back to get out, and I couldn't find the door I came in through. The door had been closed. So I just kept assuming, well, that door must be locked. So after about 45 minutes, I started to get a little worried.
He was just going round in circles.
Yeah.
Patrick, did you catch anything on there?
The battleship was relatively quiet. I did get quite a few EVPs, audio anomalies. Some of them are really quite good. Class A's, yeah.
But you didn't get any photographs?
No photographs, no video evidence, no.
Photographs, you know what? Audio, for me, is it's one of the more compelling pieces of evidence that we collect, in my opinion. Because, if you're able to rule out any other contamination and then you get a voice, especially one that maybe responds intelligently to a question or a situation, that's really compelling. Now, I mean, in the whole time that we're investigating with my team back when we were doing it, we had a lot of video events, but then you start getting into orbs or light anomalies, which so many of them can be debunked as dust or bugs or whatnot. And then there are the few that definitely weren't, in my opinion. And yet trying to convince anybody that it's not. You get somebody who sees anything that looks like a dust orb, they're going to scream, "It's dust, it's dust." It's like, well, yes, I know that. I know how cameras work, and I know how the light shines off of the dust and makes it look like orbs, yes. But when you get something that comes out of the back wall and arcs across over your head through the room at an angle in a perfect arc, that's not a piece of dust. Or ones that's like shoots out from underneath the camera, flies halfway down the hallway, and then makes a hard left and goes right through a wall. Okay, that's not a piece of dust. And nobody can ever convince me that otherwise. Now, can I sit there and honestly say that's a ghost? Of course not. It's an anomaly. We don't know exactly what it is. We think we know, but there's no way to prove it.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. Very true. I was just thinking, if I was a ghost, you wouldn't get nothing intelligent out of me.
Like we do now. See, I've missed this.
Oh, dear. Well, there's nothing intelligent about you either, is there? So there we go.
There we are.
Right. So, Bobby Mackey's. You done Bobby Mackey's. Now, we've interviewed... Who was it we interviewed once from Bobby Mackey's?
Oh, Rhonda, I think her name was. She was the old... No, it's not Rhonda. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm having...
Scratch that word "old" out if you're talking about a lady.
Well, she has since passed away. She got cancer a few years ago, but she was one of the head tour guides there.
Oh, sorry.
And then they had a little falling out, I think, with the current owners or staff at Bobby Mackey's, and she went off on her own, but then she got cancer and passed away. But we had interviewed her about that location, and, of course, now, if you've watched Ghost Adventures, which is, I'm going to say right now, for everybody who hates Ghost Adventures, you can hate on it. It is my guilty pleasure show.
His guilty pleasure.
I love, of all the ghost shows, Ghost Adventures is the only one that entertains me. And I say entertain, and I think sometimes they get some good evidence and really interesting, and I like how the show is presented. Now, is Zach a train wreck? Yes. Is what they do really scientific? No. So, and do they think everything is a frickin' demon? Yes. So,
yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But
that's,
as if I'm going to watch a ghost show for entertainment purposes, I watch Ghost Adventures, because most of the other shows, and you know what? No offense to Nick Groff, I like Nick a lot, but when he left Ghost Adventures and started doing his own shows, I hate to say it, he did not bring that charisma that Zach had with him. And most of his shows were really boring, which is why he got kicked
You
off
think
of them.
Zach's got charisma?
Zach is entertaining to watch. I'm not saying it's a good charisma.
Yeah, he's very entertaining when he's locked in a cupboard or something like that. But anyway. Nick Roth, I like Nick Roth.
No, Nick's a great guy. He's a great guy, and he's a decent investigator. But
don't get into Most Haunted. We don't talk about Most Haunted.
No. But his shows tend to be about as boring as whale shit. So, and then he's had like 2 or 3 shows taken away from him, like his Ghosts of Shepherdtown was taken away from him.
Yeah.
And there's still nobody's ever really sure what happened and why he left Ghost Adventures. I'm pretty sure that he and Zach had a big falling out because of Zach's ego. So, who knows? Yes,
that was very big, isn't it? Anyway, getting back to Bobby Mackey's.
Bobby Mackey. So, with Bobby Mackey's, you've had a chance to go in there by yourself. What year was this?
That was 2013.
Okay.
And I love that location.
Now, you love it for what reason?
Because that was the one location where I did get something on video, and it is I've shared this with a few folks. I've put it up on my website, and nobody can tell me exactly what they think it is. I have a friend who is much smarter than I am. I trust him, and even he was perplexed. He couldn't figure it out.
Is it black?
No, it was what I caught was an anomaly, a visual anomaly, and it appears to be semi-transparent. It moved very quickly, and it just came out of nowhere or out of the wall, and then went straight up into the ceiling and exited through the ceiling. And when it did go through the ceiling, it does make a really unusual sound. And I just happened to catch this on my B camera, which I set up in the corner of a room and just let it roll on its own. And I was just really lucky because the camera had just been rolling for about maybe a minute and a half when this happened. So I love Bobby Mackey's. That's a great location. But I have to clarify something, that I wasn't exactly there alone, because at the time, the site manager, Wanda Kay, somebody had to be there.
Wanda, that was it. That was who we
Yeah.
talked with, and she has since passed away.
Yeah, I heard about that, and that's really sad. I loved talking to her. She was great. But yeah, because it is a working bar and they do have a stage, and some of the musicians leave some of their gear on the stage, somebody has to kind of keep an eye on you. And I believe they had a closed circuit video system there, and she just kind of quietly sat in the office and just, I assume, kind of kept an eye on me, and came in and got me about halfway through and took me down to the basement. Where she finally said, I can't be in the basement anymore. You, Patrick, just go ahead. It's yours. And it's a great location.
Now, again, a couple of the TV shows, and Ghost Adventures primarily, tried to make it seem like it was like the most evil, haunted place in the world, which...
didn't it have a demon or somebody wicked that worked there?
They claim that was, here's what's ironic. After their documentary movie that they made back in 2006, the very first episode of the Ghost Adventure show was Bobby Mackey's. That was the very first place they investigated. It was the first episode. And, of course, they had off-the-hook activity happening that night. But, these places get these reputations, and I look at it with a very critical eye and go, maybe not. So I'm just curious what your real thoughts on that, since you had a chance to investigate it. And how long were you there? Were you just there for one night?
I was there for one night, about 5 hours, unfortunately, because, again, that was the limit. And, I felt so bad because I hadn't really planned this out ahead as well as I should have. That was Mother's Day night, and I felt so bad for
Oh, you naughty boy.
I know. But it was my itinerary. That's the only way I could fit that location in, so I apologized, obviously.
Oh.
I was just mindlessly scheduling this thing. So I feel terrible about it now.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm a mother, and you would have got a clip round this ear. Oh dear, on Mother's Day as well. Never mind.
I'll never live that one down.
As long as you made it up to her, that's the main thing, because mothers are very, very important.
Yeah. Technically, it by the time we got together, it wasn't Mother's Day anymore. It was.
Oh, that's all right then.
Yeah. But,
so you let her down. I won't say any more. You let her down. You'd be guilty.
I did research Bobby Mackey's, and absolutely nothing demonic or satanic has ever been associated with this location. All those, that's all folklore that started way after Bobby Mackey's bought that location. And this Ghost Adventures was saying that well hole and was a portal to hell, and all it is a drainage pit, and there's nothing to it. I was horribly disappointed because I was expecting these demons to come out of this hole in the ground, and it's nothing more than a pit.
Yeah, somebody had been watching Amityville Horror, I expect. Gosh. So, have you ever been to anywhere that has had these satanic rituals or anything going on?
Well, I mean, almost every location will make that sort of claim that there's some sort of a negative entity there. There's a couple of locations that went out of their way to say no. We never have had anything demonic here or satanic or anything like that. The place that comes to mind is, of course, the Sally House, because the Pickmans, in their book, which I just finished reading, I had not read their book. At the very end of the book, they claimed that they feel it was demonic. And so, again, I went to this house and I expected, the worst. I'm going to be there alone. And if there's demons here, they're just going to tear me apart. But it was relatively quiet.
Well, yeah, relatively. See, that's the thing, because they were there years ago. And
they've been on the show.
They've been on the show. I've met Deborah and Tony in person. Great people. And I've read the book, and I've seen, the different shows that have gone there. But, the person who owns the house now is, he owns it and is just renting it out for ghost hunters to come in. That's how he's making his money.
Well, actually, now I think he sold it to the city. Now Atchison, Kansas owns the house. And,
really?
And they're renting it out to paranormal groups. I mean, on their website, that's the focus of their website, is to have folks come in to a demonic haunted house.
Okay. Well, yeah, this was a few years ago.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry.
Go ahead.
There's a time delay here, people. I'm so sorry. I was just going to ask that you found nothing there. Then it was quite a peaceful, nice house.
It really was. I had a very minor physical contact experience there, where I was sitting in the master bedroom, and I had my legs crossed, and I felt a little tug on my shoelaces. And I did see some shadow activity, minor stuff, and that is really about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Mark?
Well, just the location in general. I mean, I know that for years after they had moved out of there, especially in the last 10 years when the ghost shows and it's become more and more popular, that Tony would still have problems with people going into the house and investigating. And what does everybody do when they go in there? They provoke, and they try to stir things up. And yet Tony has always had some kind of a connection with that house, that when people stir things up, he's attacked still, or he'll still have problems, even
if he's not with the house.
Even if he's not with the house. I mean, the one time he went back to the house, and again, I got to give Ghost Adventures props for doing this episode. When they went
they're
back,
getting plenty of plugs tonight.
Yeah, they're getting plugs. So what? I don't get anything on the show. I'm not associated with it in any way. I just like it. But with that episode,
we will be charging you all later on.
With that episode, they went down there, and he was attacked again when they were down in the basement. He had that huge burned welt that appeared on his neck at the same time that the one young psychic that they had there, like, almost collapsed to the ground. A couple of different things happened. So, he still feels a connection, but, he's taken his experiences and turned them around. He's put them into some artwork that he's done, and what nobody really knows about Tony is, like, he's buff. That guy works out. He is a rockin' machine.
Wow.
So with the ghost, the Sally House awning, again, that was another one where they try to say it was demonic. But again, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, Patrick, because I don't believe in demonic. Not in the religious sense, and not necessarily in the paranormal sense either. And so with your experiences, let me rephrase this. Let me ask you this. Have you encountered what you would consider to be demonic activity? And if so, what is your thoughts on what you think it was?
I have not. I have not anything that I thought was demonic, but I did have an interesting experience just about 200 miles from here in the old Yoakum Community Hospital in Yoakum, Texas, where I had a surprising experience with a very loud, I can only say a very loud negative entity, or a ghost, or maybe it was a poltergeist. I don't know, but it was really surprising to me how intense the experience became. But no, I've never felt anything that was negative or demonic. And in fact, when I was at the Sally House, I was asked, I needed for the site manager to sign a location release, and she said she would only sign it if I agreed not to to emphasize the demonic part of the history of that house. And I said, I don't even believe in that. Why would, I'm not going to, unless, I get a demon on video attacking me, or, then I have no choice. I have to. But no, I'm with you. I agree with you. I don't think, maybe that'll change. If anything, I think that folks will label something or define something as demonic because maybe they're having a particularly negative experience, or they are experiencing it as a negative experience. I think if you are getting scratched, if you're getting hit or touched, I think it's a way of communicating. Maybe this is the only way that they can let you know they're there. Because again, I had a very significant physical contact experience at Yorktown Hospital, which again is another about 150 miles from my location here. And there was no mistaking this. This was an intentional physical contact. And I think sometimes, like I said, I think some folks get shocked or find a physical contact troubling, or it makes them really nervous and scared.
What actually happened?
I was up in the nurses' quarters upstairs, and the whole second floor of Yorktown Hospital was the nuns' quarters, and I was in the lounge, in the nuns' lounge, and I'll admit this is the only time that I thought provoking would work, and I was being really pretty naughty. I was saying things that I thought would get them riled up, because there's supposed to be a nun there that didn't like, especially women with tattoos, or anyone up there with tattoos. And I remember Mark, that when Ghost Adventures was there. I remember Zach. I think he took his shirt off to show off his tattoos, and
typical.
But I was doing kind of the same thing because I wanted to see if I could provoke something to happen. And I was sitting on the sofa with my leg crossed over another one, and I was wearing shorts. And I felt what I can only describe as a hand or two pressure points on either side of my leg, and struck down my leg once, twice, and then the third time it came up a little bit higher above my knee and stroked all the way down very slowly.
Wow.
Down my leg. Yeah. And
so she was examining your knee.
I think if there was a nun there, or if the story is true, that there's a nun that is irritated by men or women with tattoos, I think she was trying to maybe scare me. I think she thought...
Well, she was looking for your tattoo.
Maybe. Or she thought I was going to run screaming like a lot of these ghost shows do. But no, again,
I'm sorry. I really do think she was touching you in the wrong place, because there's not many men that would run from that.
It wasn't unpleasant.
It wasn't unpleasant. You naughty boy. You talk to me later.
Yeah, it's a good thing she didn't hit you with the ruler.
That's okay. I like I said, anything that happens physical is fine with me. Well, I've heard some stories though.
But it must have been an experience though, to actually feel this touch from an unseen entity. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. And I'm always looking for it to happen, because you can't really debunk physical contact, and you can't think maybe I was touched. Either you were or you weren't.
Yeah.
And that's why I love and I encourage it when I'm in a location like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I can't sit here and say that I've ever been physically touched while doing an investigation by a spirit.
I wonder why.
Yeah, they don't like me. But I've had experiences, from hearing things to not really see. I saw a shadow once, wasn't quite sure about that. Mostly hearing things or like footsteps. I was one time in a prison here in New Jersey, Burlington County Jail, and I was sitting by myself in this one wing with my back against one of the cells,
Well, you better make that a bit clearer, Mark. He was one time in a prison, but he wasn't in a prison. He wasn't being naughty in a prison.
Well, I was being naughty, asking a lot of naughty questions, but yeah.
Oh, you weren't. Oh, all right then.
But yeah, I was sitting there with my back to this one cell, and on 2 occasions I heard rubber-soled shoes on cement floor walk right up on me. And I turned around and nothing was there.
Wow.
So that was pretty interesting. But usually, everything else will be hearing things. We did an investigation here, not far from where I live in New Jersey, right across the border in New York State, and of this old house that's a restaurant now. And they had a cat there that had died the year before, and I kept hearing a cat meowing all night. And we caught it on audio 3 different times.
Wow.
And there was no cat. So again, that's the limit of my experiences with personal experiences, not seeing an apparition or feeling anything touch me.
Well, come to this house. It's not rubber-soled shoes you'll hear. It's hobnail boots going up the stairs.
Wow.
Need to tell Herbert to keep it down.
Oh, God, so many people. And I've heard it once or twice, I've heard it, but so many people have heard it. It's unbelievable. It does go up and down them stairs, I've got to admit. Right, so, where were we?
Well,
lost again.
Talking, yeah, this is where we get off on our tangents. So we were talking about the demonic, actually, and you've never really had an experience. But do you believe in demonic entities, or what's your opinion on them?
I don't believe. I think that when it's defined that way or it's labeled that way, I think it's just a negative experience. And I have an acquaintance who had an experience that was a touching experience, and it was extraordinarily naughty because he was being touched in an inappropriate way.
Oh, hold on a moment. Let me close my ears. I'm covering my eyes now.
But and he labeled it. He defined it as very negative. He was very disturbed by it, and I think. I think that it kind of depends on your upbringing and what you believe. I think that certainly if you belong to a church or religion and they maybe have that belief, then I think you're going to go to a location and you're going to be that maybe has that claim, and you're going to be primed to maybe define your experience that way. But I really, because I've never had that kind of experience, I don't think it exists. I don't think it's real. I think that there's probably an explanation for it.
Well, I've been in some situations where I've encountered things that was fairly intense, not overly negative, but on 2 different occasions, I've had something that I feel was attacking me, trying to increase my anxiety and giving me heart palpitations and trying to scare me to get out of a location. And but I wouldn't call it demonic, certainly, mildly negative, because it was trying to affect a certain outcome, in my opinion, the way I felt that what I was picking up off of it. But I've been in some locations where the clients have mentioned dealing with some really intense things. And this is where my philosophy has started to change over the years. Thank you, Irene.
What have I done?
Well, our long conversations and investigation on things has really
changed
my viewpoint on a lot of things. And
that's because I tell you're talking rubbish.
Well, when we go into some locations and people think that what they're dealing with, let's say demonic, something's coming in and stirring up negative activity, making people feel like crap, and causing a lot of issues in the house. Let's say the Pickmans, the Sally house is a perfect example. Is what you're dealing with a demonic, or are you dealing with something else. And that something else sometimes we look at as being a type of, maybe it's like a parasite. They do mention with demonic activity that these things do feed off of people. It feeds on negative energy. Now, doesn't mean it's necessarily evil. It could be something that needs that type of negative energy in order to manifest, to grow stronger, to feed. I liken it to like a mosquito. Is the mosquito evil for coming up and sticking you and sucking your blood, taking something out of you for its own benefit? Or is it just doing what it does? That's the way it is. It's not evil. It's not good. It just is. And I think that there's a lot of these types of energies, or even entities, if you want to call them that. That
never lived on this earth plane you're talking about, haven't you?
Yeah. They're not human. And that's the other thing too. There's a lot of times where you'll just have a disagreeable, negative human spirit stirring up trouble. And it's just, and people automatically jump saying, "Oh, it's demonic. It's demonic." No, it's just an asshole. They can be an asshole in life. They can be an asshole in death. I mean, yes. Not much of a change there.
That's it. Why should they change? The sweet old granny, she's going to come back, the sweet old granny, isn't she? If she's going to come back and show herself to anybody, she's not going to come back as some, well, I hope, raging, screaming banshee. I will. I tell you, I'm going to scare the crap out of everybody.
There's also another type of entity.
I'm a raving, screaming banshee now.
Yes, it is. We can hardly contain you. There's also something else that we look into that is not.
We do a lot of research,
and we come up with a lot of alternate theories too. Because part of our problem with the paranormal, you tell me whether or not you agree, Patrick, is that we are basing our opinions on assumptions, not proof, because we can't prove any of this, but on assumptions that are based on Victorian era spiritualism. Yeah. This is what we've been taught in history, and that they talk about, there's activity in this house because somebody died and they had unfinished business and they didn't go to the light. Now they're wandering around doing what they did in life. We have no way of proving any of that. Yet that's the assumptions that we run to. And I've used this example on many different past programs, but we talk about if you walk into a room and all of a sudden you see what looks like an apparition of some woman in Victorian clothing and they walk down the stairs. Did you see a ghost? In the old days, everybody would say, "Oh, yeah, it was transparent. You saw this ghost." But what we're learning about now with the nature of time and reality,
Irene,
all of it being a lot more wonky than we want to admit. If you listen to any of the astrophysicists like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Dr. Michio Kaku, they talk about string theory. They talk about the idea of multiple realities.
And Irene.
Yeah, you're a reality all unto yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But these things overlapping, and the nature of time too. Time is funny. And now again, I'll go back to Irene because I always use this as an example.
While you're on timeline, everybody, Timelines is the book that you're looking for. Okay, go on. Okay,
Irene's told a story before about walking into a room and seeing a woman in period clothing, and it reacted to her. It reacted just as shocked seeing her as she was seeing the woman. Yeah. So, and then it disappeared. It wasn't there anymore. So people would think, "Oh my God, I saw a ghost. And she didn't know she died, and she's going about doing her business." Blah blah blah. Well, again, that's all assumptions. But if we start looking at the wonky nature of reality and time and multiple dimensions, there's one theory that all time is happening at once. Past, present, and future, it's all happening at once. It's only our perception of time that's linear. So who's to say maybe the conditions weren't right, that you just saw a very much living, breathing person who just saw you and saw a ghost? because those timelines blended briefly.
Yeah, and also with that particular case, when I've seen ghosts, there's a feeling you get, there's a sensation, you sense, and it's like something that's recognizable. This was different with this woman. This was different. Her vibrations, whatever the senses, was not like I was seeing Herbert or anyone else, or anybody. It was totally different. She was alive. I'm sure she was alive.
Mm-hmm. So let's put it this way. Have you ever encountered a location where there was activity, but you weren't sure what you were dealing with? Was a ghost or spirit?
Almost every location has been like that for me. And it's interesting that you mentioned all of this, because in my series, my 6-part video series, I touch a lot on the theoretical physics theories, and I try to correlate them with what I've experienced and with each location that I've been to. And I do believe that we've subscribed to a definition of what a ghost is for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and everybody believes that definition. But I am really happy that a lot of us are beginning to embrace those ideas. The ideas that maybe there is undoubtedly an explanation that maybe can be found in the world of quantum mechanics. And I touch a lot of that, a little bit in the book and a lot in the videos. And one of the theories that I have a friend who loves to talk about this is that maybe this is very much like the Matrix. Maybe we're in a simulation. Maybe these are just glitches in that simulation. Sometimes I kind of think that that's a plausible explanation because of some of the personal experiences I've had that didn't make any sense. And if you break down particle physics, none of it makes sense. There's a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense, like a lot of theories, entanglement, a particle entanglement theory, where a particle can be separated by thousands of light years, hundreds of thousands of light years, and if you change that one particle, its twin particle will change immediately at the exact instantaneous time. So how is that happening? How is that communication happening in such a long span of distance and time? Maybe space isn't even really there. So I love these theories because I think that all of this, everything that we experience, I think the answers will come from quantum, or this is just a simulation and there's some aliens having a blast, just throwing ghosts at us and seeing how we react.
That's one possibility. There's the interdimensional possibility as well. Beings that we share the planet with that are maybe just out of phase with our reality. They can mask themselves, they can hide some, but they still are around us. And there were a couple of cases that I worked on where it took several years of us investigating to come to this conclusion, but I was becoming convinced that what we were dealing with was some kind of intelligent natural entities that were on the property. And it was part of the property and not the house being haunted itself, because several houses in the neighborhood were all experiencing the same thing.
I completely agree. That's why I think that to some extent, a location like Bobby Mackey's that has been described as a portal, I think there might be some truth to that, especially with the video that I have of this entity that seemed to be interdimensional. It went through the ceiling as we walk through a door and go out into a hallway or something. It's as if that physical barrier didn't exist. So maybe there is some truth to that location, especially being a portal. I think, and it did. the longer I was there, I love Bobby Mackey's because I had such an interesting experience there. But it seemed that the longer I was there, the more I was getting this odd, weird feeling that I had been there before, or that I had always been there. It's a wonderful location. But yeah, I think that.
A feeling of being part of the place?
Well, here's what happened. I had a couple of interesting audio anomalies that sounded just like my voice. And I thought, well, I don't remember saying that. And when I tried to sync, when I did sync that time and this was on one of my audio recorders, I synced it with the video and where I am in relation to where the audio recorder is and what I'm saying, and they're two completely different things. I thought, but it sounds exactly the way I speak. It has my cadence. So
I've done many investigations over the years because I've been investigating now since the year well, let's say Jesus was in nappies at the time, but mimickers. I call them mimickers, and they are very, very good. What they are, who they are, what they consist of, I don't know, but they seem to be able to mimic voices. Now, you had this when you were a child, didn't you, Mark? Was it your mother calling you?
Yeah, there were a couple of times I heard my mother call me, and I go to ask her, what do you want? She goes, I didn't call you. Sounded like her.
Oh, yeah, I call them mimickers. They're very, very good at mimicking voices. And I'm sure there is some sort of entity out there that does this. I'm absolutely certain there's an entity, some type of entity that does this. And for you to get it on recorder like that is, well, that's great, isn't it? That's great.
Yeah, and it was really surprising.
Because you were able to,
Sounded just like me.
Did it? If I hear you tonight in my house, I'll know it's one of mine messing around. That's it. Yeah. So, besides that, what has scared you? Has anything really scared you? Besides wandering around in the dark and maybe falling down a hole.
No. Yes, there. Again, it was just about 2 hours from my location here. It's a little town, Yoakum, Texas, and there's an old community hospital there that was built in the mid to late 1800s, and then additions were made to it a little later. And I encountered my first very loud. I think you could classify it or define it as a poltergeist activity, but it was extraordinarily loud. It was so loud that all my devices, all my recorders peaked into the red. And what happened was the sound sounded as if somebody. First of all, it was the sound of a very heavy rustling kind of sound, like a very heavy person was in the ICU, and I was only about 30 feet away from the ICU, and the ICU is completely sealed off. There's no way in or out except through the hallway I was in. Then I hear what sounded like a big plate glass window crashing to the floor, and then immediately after that is what sounded like a lead pipe, a metal pipe being struck against another metal surface, and it really, really startled me because I thought, well, that sounds like there's a person in there. And I really didn't, if you're alone in a location like that, the last thing you want to come across is another living person. Because more than likely, things are not going to end well. They probably don't belong there. They shouldn't be there.
Yeah, it sounds like hooligans, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's what scared me. I thought it was going to be another person. But when I went into ICU, into the room, there was no one there. So I was a little relieved that it was probably paranormal. But then I thought, but how is this better?
Yeah. Could that have been residual? You think something happening in the past
At first I thought it was, but then it repeated. It happened again. The sounds moved out into the hallway where I had my B-roll camera rolling.
Yeah.
And again, it was the same sort of sounds, very rambunctious. It sounded like somebody taking a board and was just demolishing the walls. I went out into the hallway. It stopped. And then a couple of minutes later, it was further down the hallway in this old hospital, making the exact same types of sounds. So to me, residual, maybe if it happens once, but this was not only, it continued, but it was also moving. It was moving away from me. So I had never come across something like that.
You've never been tempted to say, shut up, or anything like that? You know, when I've ever heard anything, I'm terrible. If something's making a noise in the house that shouldn't be making a noise in this house, I go, shut up! You know? It scares the living daylights out of the dogs, but they're all going, well, what have I done? What have I done? But you get, this house I'm in here has 2 kitchens. The old kitchen, which was the original part of the house, and a new extension kitchen, which I used. The old kitchen is now a utility room, and all it's got in there is a washing machine, and a freezer, and a sink, an old sink, and I feed the dogs in there. But every now and then, you will hear pots and pans being put away in cupboards and God knows what else in there. And I just yelled, in the middle of the bloody night or first thing in the morning this goes on. And I just yelled for it to shut up, and it stopped.
I did live in an old apartment that was like that. And yes,
You'd love my house. You'd love my house.
And I did tell him, could you please let me sleep? I'm trying to sleep here.
I tell you what's the worst in this house. The very, very worst is when you get smells. I suffered for 3 days with the smell of bacon. I'm vegetarian. There's no bacon in the house. Right? No bacon at all in the house. I'm vegetarian. And that went on for 3 days, during the day and in the evening. I couldn't put a stop to it in any way whatsoever. It was a nice smell, but it was bacon. And apparently they used to keep pigs on the property a long time ago, about over 100 years ago. And at one time, my husband was standing at the back door waiting for the dogs to come in, and something whispered in his ear, called him a pig.
Wow.
He came running into me. He said, I've just been called a pig. I said, well, they're right there, aren't they? But occasionally I lay in bed and there's this horrible smell. It was straight in my face, as if some entity has got straight up to my face and it's breathing straight into my face, this horrible stagnant smell. Yeah. Where that comes from, I don't know, but I just usually end up telling it to frig off, and I turn over or tuck my head into the pillow so I don't have to smell it. Have you had any smells?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I was recently in an Old West hotel in North Texas, and there was the unmistakable smell of cigarette smoke, pipe smoke, that sort of scent, and then perfume, very strong scent of perfume. So I have been at some locations where, the Sally House. I keep going back to the Sally House, but this may be unrelated, but the Sally House just has a very, very strong mildewy smell that kind of got into my clothes, into everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
when it hasn't been cleaned in years.
Yeah.
Probably has so much black mold rolling through there. It's no wonder nobody gets sick.
Is there black mold in there?
That's guessing.
Dangerous.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Oh, I was going to say. So you have cigarette smoke, you have perfume, you have nice smells. I get bacon and bloody rancid breath. That's not fair, is it? That's not fair. I'm going to have you over, though. I am going to have you over. You can do an investigation in this house, sort my lot out for me, and put them in their place.
I'd love to.
You will love to, yes. You can come. You can come. I've got plenty of bedrooms. You can come. Bring your friends.
I will.
As long as you're all right with dogs.
I'm fine with dogs. I love dogs.
Oh, that's good. And while you're here, can you help me build the swimming pool?
Well, Patrick, let me ask you, of the places you've investigated, well, okay, so you've done the Sally House, you've done Bobby Mackey's, you said you were at Waverly Hills. You've also done Fort Mifflin.
Yes.
Now, I've also been to Fort Mifflin, so I'm just curious what, if anything, you experienced while you were there.
Fort Mifflin was fantastic. And I think being so close to the Philadelphia International Airport has something to do with it. And I was on the fence about going to Fort Mifflin because I knew that it's right in the path of incoming airliners, and it's one right after the other. And it was really very loud. But I had every kind of experience there, from hearing footsteps to seeing shadows. I got wonderful EVPs from that location. It was surprisingly active when I was there. And I love that location. I just wish it wasn't as loud as it is because of the airport that's so close by.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a great location.
One of the things that I captured on video a couple different times in different areas, like in the Powder Magazine and in Casemate 5, which is supposed to be one of the more active locations, we kept getting these flashes of light. And I've actually got these on a couple of other investigations I've done too. One is when I did a gold mine once in Colorado. And you would get these little pinpoint flashes of light where there should be no light. There's no insects, there's no, and yet they show up on video. Very, very interesting. I'm not sure what to make of it. It's not a video anomaly because it would happen a couple different times in a same spot. And, just some, like a little burst of energy.
I saw them myself. There were two times, and it was, yes, in the Powder Magazine one time, and in the Armory, I think. But I didn't, even though I had my cameras rolling, although I'm always filming in infrared, I didn't see them on video, but I remember seeing them while I was there. And it's exactly as you described it, little pinpoints of light. I have no idea what they were. And I was really disappointed. I really was expecting to see them on video, but I didn't get them on video.
Yeah, I did. And again, it's very minor in terms of evidence collected, but yet it would happen several times, and not really know, what it is. So
the old name for that is ghost lights.
Well, there's a difference because these little lights are pinprick and they'd flash for a second and then go out. Where a lot of ghost lights that people have seen, like out in forests or whatnot, looks like a light, almost like a hand lantern.
No, these are lots of little pinprick lights, like little sparkler.
Oh, okay.
I guess sometimes up in my bedroom at night. They are interesting. I don't know what they are either. But, they've been reported for years and years and years. You mentioned shadow people. Now, shadows. Do you think they are shadow people, or do you think they are just shadows of ghosts? Or actually...
I think it's a little bit of both. I think I have seen shadow people, and it's, again, one of those frustrating things that I've never been able to get it on video. But I have had personal experiences with shadow people, and at almost every location I've had it, and every place is different. On the battleship, I didn't see a single one, but Waverly Hills was extremely active with shadow play.
Yeah, move very fast.
Extremely fast, yes.
You see them at the corner of your eye.
Sometimes straight on. Yeah.
Yeah, we done a couple of shows in the last couple of weeks on shadow people because I've been seeing one in the kitchen, believe it or not, Mark. And Gertie's seen it as well.
Does Gertie bark at it?
Yeah. Oh, she goes berserk.
Yeah.
But, it quickly moves past the door.
Yeah.
And it's usually when I'm sitting opposite the door in the other room, where the door is open, you can see it go past, But, yeah, I don't like them. Give me a demon anyway, any day, but I don't like those buggers. I really do not like shadow people. After those couple of programs, I was talking with a guest, and one night I got myself so worked up about that and black-eyed children, I wouldn't go to bed. I didn't go to bed. So you see these quite often then. So what's the difference with a shadow ghost and a shadow person? I know shadow people can move very, very fast.
The experiences I've had, they run from one end to the other. Some have been menacing. Some of them have been extremely creepy. Some have been. I had one that was interesting at Waverly Hills that was quite large, that actually took up the whole hallway, and seemed, to me, I think they're sentient. I think they're aware of us.
You think they're watching you?
That, or they're trying to figure us out, or they're just curious about us. Maybe they don't, maybe we're shadow people to them. I don't know. But yeah, I've had both types of experiences, some that were disturbing and some that were just very neutral. Just I would see them out of the corner of my eye, or running into a room, running around a doorway. Doorways are for some reason pretty. That was an experience that I had several times, and I even may have startled a few, because I remember when I was at Waverly Hills and I was trying to run away from the group, I ran past the doorway and I think I startled a shadow person who ran away from me.
Oh, you scared the living daylights out of it.
I think so.
And when you've seen these, you've been working on your own, yes?
Yeah.
Told you, he's very brave, Mark. Very brave. Most people would scarper like lightning.
Very brave or very dumb?
No, I think you're very brave, because there is not that many people, only I would, because I'm daft anyway. I sit in this house on my own. I don't worry about ghosts. But, there is not that many people who go to places like an asylum and wander around on their own. It's not that. I'll tell you what scares me. It wouldn't be the actual entities in the place that would frighten me. It'd be the thought would go on in my mind that someone had got in, that there was someone in there, somebody else in the building.
That's always a concern for me, and that's really the thing that I'm most worried about, because it did happen, and it did happen at Yorktown Hospital.
Did?
Yeah, some kids broke into the place, and they got in rather easily, and it's not a good experience, because there were 3 big teenagers, and I'm not exactly a big guy, and I was worried, because I have expensive gear with me. I have cameras, I have audio recorders. I thought, well, they could pretty much hurt me and run off with my stuff, and nobody would ever know.
Well, if they broke in, they were up to no good anyway, were they?
They were not up to anything good, no.
Yeah. So what did you do?
The site manager had a little house around a corner, and I ran as fast as I could and just started yelling for him, "Hey, please come and help me. There's people breaking into this place." And he did. He was able to get to me pretty quickly. Yeah. But the kids were gone. you have no choice. I had no choice but to confront them and say, if I were you, I'd leave.
Yeah.
And luckily it didn't go badly for me. They left.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. But that is the one thing that would frighten me the most, I think. We've had some beautiful asylums over here. Cane Hill Hospital in Purley was one, Coulston, actually in Coulston, up in Surrey, just outside London. Absolutely beautiful place. David Bowie's brother was in there, and Charlie Chaplin had his mother in there, and one thing or another. But it was an absolutely gorgeous place. And when the building closed, in went the thugs, the hooligans, and the vandals, the satanic cults. Everything went in there. The place was totally trashed, absolutely trashed. But with the asylums that you've got out there, the majority of them are kept. Over here, they are usually demolished and housing estates are built on the property to house people. But the hell of a lot of asylums in America still stand, don't they?
Well, a lot of these places, they go to rot. The state doesn't want to spend money to tear them down. And unless somebody comes up and thinks that they can do something with the land and property, they just sit there and rot.
Oh, well, the property developers move in over here, I tell you. And all these beautiful places just go. Or they're turned into hotels, or they're turned into, But they just...
But see, a lot of that takes money. And if somebody doesn't want to invest the money in a location... I know that the Waverly Hills...
but that's historic, that place.
Yes, but it's privately owned, and they were looking to turn it into a hotel at some point. I don't know whatever happened about that.
It's not a tax dodge or anything like that, is it, to keep these old buildings? No?
Say that again?
It wouldn't be a tax dodge over there to keep these old buildings.
No, because then you still have to pay the property taxes.
I don't know. In here around Wales, there's a lot of old derelict houses still owned by farmers and things like that, and it's some sort of tax thing going on.
Could be.
They can claim tax on it or something or other.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say. I mean, there are a lot of great old buildings. I know several places around here that I would love to get in and investigate, but you can't get in because they are, they're either owned by the state or the town. You can't. They're not willing to let anybody in for insurance reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So they just sit there and go to waste. Now, and then the problem comes with kids breaking in, trespassing, vandalizing them, partying in them, looking for a cheap scare. Yeah. And that makes it even harder for us to try to get in.
Yeah, it's a shame. Total shame. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, Patrick, let me ask you, of the places, you've been to a bunch of different places, what are some places that you haven't been to yet that you're dying to get into?
My house.
I would love to go to, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this correctly, but the suicide forest in Japan.
Oh, obviously. The Hayabachu forest. Not Hayabachu. No, I got that wrong. That's Romania. That's Romania. I know which one. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, though.
I think it's Akiyogahara. I think.
God bless you.
And of course, all the big, I started going to, because I'd never been in haunted houses, in an actual house. In 2018 actually, I went to a few houses. I went to the Villisca Axe Murder House, and of course I went to Sally House. And there's such small houses and such small locations that, by midnight or 1, 2 in the morning, I was pretty much finished. I didn't have anything else to do except start over again. So I'm really looking forward to the bigger places, the iconic places I've never been to. Eastern State comes to mind. I'd love to go in there. I'd love to try for another battleship. I know there's a few more that offer that sort of experience where you can pretty much lease the place out. But yeah, I'm looking at. There's so many locations. Missouri State Penitentiary is one that I'd love to get into, and they had some tornado damage, and unfortunately, they're at the moment they're closed.
Which location was this?
Missouri State Penitentiary.
Okay.
Yeah, they recently had a tornado that caused quite a bit of damage. So unfortunately, it's going to take some time for them to open up again. But yeah, any of the big places, and I love the East Coast. I'd love to just go back to the East Coast. I had such a great time in 2013, and there's quite a few locations I'd love to get into. There's some asylums that I'd love to get into. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is another one. The only thing about them is they are really expensive, and they only let you stay there for 6 hours, and I believe it was $1,500. Plus, you have to provide $2 million aggregate insurance.
Oh,
yeah.
They didn't used to be that way. We had some people on my team. I didn't get to go, but several of my team members went out there and investigated and never had to do that. But that was about 10 years ago too.
Yeah, when I did contact them, I did talk to them in 2013, and not only that, when I asked if it was okay if I were to shoot a video and put it on the internet, they did not like that idea at all. They said no. So sadly, I wasn't able to go. I'd love to go back to Waverly.
Waverly.
Yeah.
It's strange, because over here the majority of the investigations take place in castles. We've got castles everywhere, wherever you turn, especially here in Wales. You can't turn around without bumping into a castle wall. But over there, with you lot, castles here, asylums in America.
Yeah.
Strange.
Hospitals.
Yeah, you've got them everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to investigate some castles. There's that castle by you that you went to and got those great photos, Glenstephan Castle. Glenstephan. Yeah. She went just with her family one day, Patrick, and they were just walking around, took some pictures, and they got a couple of apparitions. At least 3 apparitions that we know of.
I was just taking family photographs of the family, the kids or whatever, or my son, and yeah. And pick stuff up. And that was just on an ordinary digicamera. This is getting now to what about equipment? I only have an ordinary. When I go now, I don't bother with all the equipment. I've got the equipment. It's all upstairs under the bed. But I don't bother with it. Digital camera, tape recorder. Maybe that's it,
Yeah, I'm very anti-gadget. Anything that is not valid or reliable, I will not use. And yeah, I'm like you. I take cameras, and video cameras, and audio recorders.
Yeah. If you're going to catch something, you're going to catch it on those things, and that's it. Humping all this stuff around, you just need you need someone with you. Well, I do. So I just don't bother anymore. I used to do it for a laugh and one thing or another, put all the cameras up and this, that, and all over the building. But nah. No, not now.
Let me tell you the problem with putting up video cameras anywhere. Let's say you go to a location. Let's say you're by yourself. Let's say you set up 5 cameras and they each run for 4 hours each. That's 20 hours of footage that you have to watch every single
don't I
frame.
know it, yeah.
And
I've sat up all night sometimes.
Oh, my God. And 95% of the time, nothing happens. It's nothing.
That's it.
I still do it.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I do it too. But oh, my God, it's the most mind-numbing part of investigation to the point where, while I would like to catch, I'll set up a couple of cameras, but usually I change my my tactic to just walk around and feel the place. Because then when you're concentrating so much on gadgets and trying to pick stuff up, I think we ignore the signals that our body is telling us of what's around. And I think we can tune into it.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about being a solo is that I can just let the cameras roll, and I often do that. I'll just let the camera roll, and I'll just go walk around and just go get a feel for the place, go sit down in Villisca. I just thought, I'm just going to sit in the living room for an hour and just be as quiet as possible and see what happens, see if anything happens.
I think that's more exciting, actually. Than having all these things all over the place and having to pack it all up and take it all back and everything and go through everything. Just to be able to go and sit somewhere, maybe put a couple of cameras out and then just go and sit, like you say, in the living room and relax and just see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's a 50-50. I do like to, obviously we want that evidence. We're all after that walking, talking, interacting ghost. We want to get it on video. I think that's the only proof that we'll ever be able to bring to the scientific community that they may take seriously. So my goal is to try to document it as best as possible.
Yeah. Do you ever do anything before you actually go out on an investigation? Do you sit and meditate or calm your mind or anything before you go into these places?
I do, yes. Obviously, I have to travel, and the day of an investigation, I don't go anywhere. Only for the fear that I might get in trouble, or something could happen, and you've got so much money invested in that one location for maybe that one night or 2 nights that I don't want to get into any trouble. I don't want to get into an accident, get into a car wreck, something like that. So I'll just stay in my hotel room and just relax and just try to rest up as much as possible because it is going to be a very long night.
Yeah, so you unwind and you clear your mind and everything.
Yeah, and when I'm at the location, what I find pretty meditative is actually just setting everything up. It's just going through all my gear. For me, it's automatic. I'm not really thinking about it because I already know how everything needs to be set. Mm-hmm. So it's meditative, really.
Do you ever have a psychic, or have you ever worked with a psychic on any of these investigations?
I never have, and that would be really interesting. I'd love to.
There you go. You got an open. Oh, there it is. I hear the ghost in the background there. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Gertie.
Can you hear her?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I don't hear her anymore. I'm so used to the noise. I just don't hear her. She sounds like a cow, doesn't she? Gosh. That's British Bulldog. It can't be helped. Yeah. So, what have you got in the future coming up? Anything in the future?
I am going to try to get to Japan.
Japan.
Yes. And I've got some ghost hunting friends in Australia. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to try to get to some locations in Australia because, I'm in my 50s and it's getting a little bit harder to do this. I'm getting a lot more tired than I used to get.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
Mm-hmm. We've all got there, I tell you.
I'm 55, and especially if you're sitting on the floor, then try to get up. The knees don't want to work.
And I'm not telling you how old I am. It's my privilege not to tell you that I'm 68 years old. Oh, my God. I am old. Am I that old? Yeah, I must be. I don't know.
It's not that old. Not anymore.
I don't know either. But so Japan, Australia, what would you like to do in Australia? Australia is a relatively young country.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like the UK or Europe that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. Australia is still relative. Mind you, Japan. Wow, I'd like to do Japan. But the ghosts there are pretty frightening. They're like little girls with their hair hanging down, you know? So, but Australia, what is there really in Australia?
There are a couple of locations. There's one that I'm aware of is a hospital, and I'm not sure exactly where it's at, but it has gotten a reputation for being extremely active, and and some folks have had some negative experiences there. So I'd love to, and because I have some ghost hunting friends there, I'd love to go. Maybe even try to do something with them. They know the locations to go to. So and Japan, the suicide forest has been a bucket list for me.
Yeah.
If any place is going to be haunted, and I know some folks feel that maybe it's a little too exploitive to go to this place because obviously people are committing suicide, and that's why it's known.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but and I feel sorry for these people that do take their lives there. But if any place is going to be haunted, that's a place.
Yeah. Why do you think that they do go there and commit suicide? What makes them?
It's a historical place. There's something about the place, and it's been happening for a very, very long time.
Yeah, it's really strange, isn't it? Is it because they want to commit suicide there? Do you think, or do you think that they're pulled there by some unseen or unknown force to kill themselves?
I think most of them go there with that intent. I think they go there and I think they just, maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe they want to do this, and a lot of times, again, it's a delicate subject, and the Japanese government does not really like people going in there with video cameras and doing what I would like to do.
Yeah.
But it's a cultural thing. I think many of these. Unfortunately, these bodies are not found for some time.
Yeah, and I think places like that, they even pick up that reputation, and then other people, they go there specifically because they know that's where other people are going to commit suicide. So they go there, that's the place to go. They go and camp, they take a few days to think about it, and then they end their life, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a total shame. It is a total shame. Have you ever wanted to come to Europe? But, we got places that go back to the 12th century, even earlier.
I'd love to go to Europe.
Yeah. You would?
Yes.
There is so many, in France, Italy, everywhere, all over Europe. It's some magnificent places to investigate.
Unfortunately, I'm but a poor, working, semi-talented filmmaker with very limited funds. So I have to pick wisely. So if I could afford it, yes, of course.
Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it? It's the cost of getting over here is colossal.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. We're very lucky. It's all on our doorstep. From my house in London that I had in London, within 3 hours, I was in France.
Wow.
The majority, and that's by going by road. 2 hours down to the docks and an hour over, and I was in Calais, sort of thing. From London itself now to Belgium is only a short ride. Now they've built the tunnel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're on the train hardly any we can get everywhere here so easily.
Yeah.
Well,
Which is the thing.
there are locations I would love to investigate that are non-traditional, because I'm interested not just in the ghost aspect, but anything that would be classified as high strangeness. There are places like the Gillian Ranch in Washington where they have everything from ghosts to UFOs to Bigfoot seen on a regular basis. The Hayabachu Forest in Romania, which has a lot of reported activity around.
Yes.
So these locations that have these like pinpoints, whether it's ley lines, whether it's whatever that makes the place special for all sorts of different types of activity to take place. That's what I would be interested in going to.
Too many places, and too expensive. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it? You know, but if you had a lot of money, if you won the I was going to say bingo there, the lottery or anything like that, would you travel around to all these places?
That's all I would do.
That's all you would do?
Yes.
Give up the day job?
Yes, in a heartbeat.
Oh, if somebody's willing to fund me, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So we're looking for rich benefactors out there that just want to, you need a tax write-off and you want to blow money on some poor people who want to go out and play in the paranormal. We're the guys for you. Seeking rich benefactors, please.
Please, yes.
Yeah. That would be funny, wouldn't it? If somebody turned around and gave you money. Oh, it would be good. Absolutely good. You know?
If that would happen, I would fund folks who want to do this. Why not? Yes. Through vidispace.com, there's a lot of really interesting poor filmmakers just like myself, and I would help them as much as I could. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some people do. Some people actually do that. What is it? That there is oh, God.
Yeah, the GoFundMe, those types of funding.
Yeah.
Which, unless you're really lucky, nobody ever funds you.
No.
It's exceptionally rare you get anybody who funds you.
Oh my God, you're crazy. But there is one. What is it? It's got. We were going to put the radio show on there once. Oh God, I can't remember the name. But there's a couple of people over here that have travelled because people have funded them to go out and do their research in various countries.
Wow.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of this thing. Never mind, it's not that important. But if you could get somebody to fund you to go and travel, you would definitely do that.
Definitely. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we have just a few minutes left in the show. Got about 5 minutes left here. Let me just ask one last quick question of you. Other than ghosts and the paranormal, do you believe or feel that there are other types of strange phenomena out there that you feel is legitimate? Anything from UFOs to Bigfoot to you name it. I mean, what else really interests you?
UFOs, yes, because I've had 3 experiences. One of them really significant when I was a teenager. And that's when I was living in Laredo, Texas, a little border town that's about 3 hours from here. And I couldn't believe what I had seen. It was like out of the movie Close Encounters. It was a massive. I can only describe it as a spaceship that appeared to be landing, and no one was out. There were no cars. There were no people on the street. Nobody came out of their houses. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So, yes, UFOs. Only because I've seen a few of them myself. But I think that for some of us, maybe one of the reasons that I do this I think, is that big question that I think that everybody probably has thought about, undoubtedly. What happens? What happens when our lights go out? What happens after death? It's that nagging question and it's, I don't, for me, I think the older that I get, it's no longer really so much a fear. It's just a curiosity. I'd love to know. Do we go on? Is there something else? Is there? Do we cross over to some other reality? And so there's only so much that I can focus on, unfortunately. But as far as beliefs, the next biggest one for me is extraterrestrial life, interdimensional beings, UFOs. Yeah, Bigfoot. Not so much. I don't doubt that there's something out there, some missing link. Certainly. I mean, why not? I mean, there's so much about this planet that we haven't even skimmed the surface of. We don't even know what's in some of our deepest oceans. So yeah, why not? There's not very much that I don't think is possible.
Well, I heard on the television the other day that we know more about the universe than what we do about our own oceans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's so hard for us to get down that deep.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be for me to get you down that deep.
She's threatening to drown me again.
Yeah. Oh, right. So now you do documentary short films, yes? Video films?
Yes.
And where can they find those?
You can find them at vidispace.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's a streaming service that was started by Nick Groff and Elizabeth Saint. And you can find them on my website, sologhosthunter.com, www.sologhosthunter.com. My video series is there. And I'm just going to warn everybody that it's not at all like what you see on television. They're, it's like Mark said, and it's like what a lot of people who do this, who are not in the television show scene, it's really 90% of the time there's just nothing going on. It's really quite boring. So
yeah, it is.
In my videos, it's one single guy kind of wandering around an old haunted place. So I don't expect to see the flashy types of.
Well, if this is it, if something was going on in every frame of your video, then I wouldn't believe it. Because it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't work that way. Can these videos be found on YouTube?
They are not on YouTube.
They're not on YouTube. So it's sologhosthunter.com.
Sologhosthunter.com or vidispace.com. Yes.
Vidispace.com.
Or on Vimeo. You can find me on Vimeo.com. Yeah.
Now you
sorry, Mark. Carry on.
I was just going to also mention, because we have less than a minute left here, that you also have your book Timeline, Solo Overnight Explorations of Some of America's Most Haunted Locations. And where can people find that?
That you can find on, obviously, Amazon. It's and I don't think you can find that book particularly in any local bookstore, if there are any local bookstores anymore. But Amazon is the main source for it. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, great. Well, Patrick, we have run out of time here, and I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. These last 2 hours have flown by, and we really enjoyed having you on.
I enjoyed being on. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
I told you we were bonkers, didn't I? I did pre-warn you.
I think you kind of have to be to do this.
Oh, Christ, yeah. You certainly do. Anyway, so Mark, do you want to take us out?
Well, I want to thank everybody for listening to another edition here of Paranormal UK Radio Show here on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And you can find our podcasts on paukradio.com, Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and where else, Irene?
Everywhere, folks. Just about everywhere.
Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a great night. Irene, we will see you next week.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye.